What?
Oh!
What is it?
One of my favorite shows. I love that show.
TGIF.
Good morning, everyone. Friday, finally, the weekend is here.
It is?
Oh, well, not here yet, but it's almost here.
Close enough.
Oh, in that case.
Who's ready to party?
Let's get this party started.
It's showtime.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Friday morning. We are completely and thoroughly buried in the dog days of summer. I grew up in a town with a Major League Baseball team. I didn't realize how slow it got in the summer. When you got a baseball team, you got something going on every day. If you don't have that, now if we get baseball in 5 years, it's going to totally change the pace of sports around here. It's just absolutely going to be a game changer. It'll be so very different. We'll have games 6 days out of 7. We'll have stuff going on. We'll have people doing stuff and saying stuff. It'll be really intriguing. But that's then. Right now, we had a couple of preseason games. If that does it for you, Fernando Mendoza, predictably struggling in a preseason, probably means he's not ready for the regular season. If he can't handle vanilla man-to-man defense now, threw a pick, completed about half his passes. Yeah, it's going to be a while. Got more games coming up tonight and Saturday. So if preseason football is your thing, there you go. Go crazy. High school football, I thought I was going to see a good game. Morgan, a really good 3A team, playing 4A Skyview, who's usually pretty good themselves. Morgan completely dominated. First play from scrimmage, a pick 6. Second drive, there was a fumble. They recovered. Short field, a touchdown. It was 14-0. We hadn't played 3 minutes. It was 21-0 before 6 minutes. They won 47-0. A game that was shortened by a new mercy rule in high school football. Get that 44-point lead in the fourth quarter, it's over. It was 47 when the fourth quarter started. There was no fourth quarter. So there you go. There was a good game last night. Alta and Brighton. That was wild. And then Syracuse blew out Granger. Just absolutely annihilated them. I think it ended up being 52-7. So more football tonight, and we got a lot of it at go to KSLSports.com and the KSL Sports app, and you will see games streaming left and right. Not as many as last week. I think tonight it's 18 games streaming tonight, and then one on Saturday. That Alta Bingham score, Alta came back to win 13-12. They were down 12-0 rally to win the game. But tons of games tonight. IMG, that high school football powerhouse from Florida, is coming to play Lone Peak, and that game will be streaming. Also, Skyline is Olympus, the Battle of the Rock. I'll be on that game tonight. So, but tons of games. You can check them all out. And then we got teams going out of state. American Fork is down in LA playing Mater Dei. That is a Southern California powerhouse. A lot of kids. USC usually recruits Mater Dei. They usually pull a lot of players out of Mater Dei. So, intriguing. Second night tonight. East and West, the rivals in Salt Lake City, will be meeting tonight. So plenty of games. Check them out online. All right, DJ and PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk BYU football with Mitch Harper, get his thoughts on how things are going for the Cougars. And, of course, we still got these eligibility rules going on. We got a former Cougar, and then we'll see where he lands. And can you go to a pro camp and come back? And, I mean, on the one hand, it's ridiculous given the tradition of the game for 100 years. But then when you listen to Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, babble on about it, the sanctity of the academic. No, it's tradition, and it's a tradition we like. It's a timeline we like, and it's one that's been held to for more than 100 years. But the whole academic, blah, blah, people go back to college all the time and lead professional lives and get a second degree. I took a part-time job for money. It was radio, so I could do it when I was a sophomore. It's just listen to Sankey battling. The guy actually made me rethink it and change my mind. Good for him, I guess, huh? All right, we'll take a break. We'll talk a little bit about that with Mitch Harper next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 KSL Sports Zone, joined once again by Mitch Harper covering the Cougars for KSL Sports, KSLSports.com. Follow him on the KSL Sports app and wherever you get your podcasts. He writes, he talks, he does it all. Mitch, good morning.
Hey, good morning, DJ. Happy to be on with you.
I am curious, after a couple of weeks out there at BYU, watching everything and knowing you still got a couple weeks to go before a game, do you think anything can surprise you anymore, or are we into the very predictable part of camp?
I think they're probably in the predictable part of camp, but I will say there's growing optimism from this coaching staff about the wide receiver unit, and maybe that doesn't align with what people on the outside are saying with that group. And myself, I still have my questions about that unit, but Aaron Roderick and Fesi Sitake have been pretty high on this wide receiver unit. And, Fesi Sitake even told me that this is the most skilled wide receiver unit that he's had in terms of depth since he's been the wide receiver coach. And he's going into his 9th season. And Aaron Roderick, was very confident about 5 of those players that he mentioned earlier this week. So I think that there's growing optimism, but to me, it's still in this camp of you got to prove it in games with these guys, because you go down the list, the only one that's got more than 500 career receiving yards is Tiger Bachmeier, and he struggled last year. So maybe he can have a bounce-back season this year for BYU, but I think that's something that's been kind of noteworthy, is maybe just the quiet confidence this coaching staff has in this wide receiver unit, which I look at as a big question mark.
When you have a wide receiver who you give an A, and this doesn't matter, college, pro, whatever, you tend to have somebody who's got an advantage with size, with speed, with athletic ability. But I think there's a strong case to be made that you can be a wide receiver and grade out at a B if you do what you're supposed to do, run the route you're supposed to run the route you're supposed to run, read the defense the same way as a quarterback, because if you read it wrong and you cut outside and they throw it before the break and they throw it inside, you make a quarterback look bad, and it's either incomplete or it's intercepted. But if you run the right route, if you read the defense, and if you catch the ball when it's thrown to you, you can be fairly dangerous. Do they have a group of guys who can do that, even if they don't have someone you look at who you think, oh, he's 6'3.5", he runs a 4.40, he's going to be drafted, first day in the NFL draft?
I think they do, and I think what's interesting about BYU's receiver unit is that they do have height. When you look at Casper at 6'6", JoJo Phillips at 6'5", Reggie Frischnecht at 6'4", they've got size. They can put out some big bodies out there as a receiver. And maybe that's and what you're bringing up there is kind of reminds me a little bit of BYU receivers of the past. It used to be with Lavelle, 8-9 guys would catch a pass in a game, and they would be precise route runners. And maybe that's what this group can be, with a little bit more, measurements and size than what we, used to see from BYU receivers of the past. I think it's definitely there. But again, it's just, I think there's also really good secondaries in the Big 12, and also Notre Dame too. Notre Dame might have the best cornerback in college football with Leonard Moore, and I think there's a lot of good secondaries in the conference. And we've seen many times in the past where there's some optimism about BYU receiver units, and then they go into a game against like a Michigan in 2015, and they can't get off the line of scrimmage. And I'll be curious to see what this group can do. But I think that if that group comes together quickly, and I think there's a real kind of jump into the deep end moment with Arizona in week 2, so we'll really get a sense of how much progress they've truly made early this season. Maybe this could be a real positive story and set BYU up for where they feel good about that unit if they retain them all for 2027 and beyond, because there's a lot of underclassmen in that wide receiver unit. So if they hit, it could be a really good group for a couple of seasons to come.
Should have had a pool there, although I'm by myself today. PK's on vacation, so, I would have won it because it would have been just one guy putting in $1 and then I would take my dollar back. But I should have had a pool there on you talking about getting off the line of scrimmage, because for so many teams intermittently on and off for BYU, that's been an issue. Guys who get jammed at the line of scrimmage, they can't get out in the routes and everything bogs down, the timing's all off, and it's a mess. But they've also gone through a lot of first-time offensive coordinators there because they didn't have a lot of money. It's a different era. A-Rod's got a ton of experience. There have been guys who've gotten offers who've decided to stay. I'm pretty sure A-Rod's on that list. he's going to put guys in motion and help get them off the line of scrimmage. He's going to put guys in bunch formations where you're basically screening and running pick plays for each other immediately, and somebody is going to get free in that bunch formation of 3 wide receivers. I think that can be schemed up a little bit, and I don't think it always has been. But when you're a brand new wide receiver or brand new coordinator for the first time, there's a lot on your plate, and you don't get everything right. No kidding. It's the first time doing it. Surprise. So do you think A-Rod can solve that one problem just with a little ingenuity? I mean, if I know it, then he must know it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, the jet sweeps will definitely be a factor. And I look at, Legend Glasgow and Tiger Bachmeier being the guys that could hold that down and be, weapons in that aspect of this offense. And that's where I think Aaron Roderick has improved quite a bit from his days at Utah and to now going into his 9th season as BYU's OC. Is that I think that he'll find a way to, he'll to find a way to get it done. And I think that there's no, I don't think he has an ego that he needs to win a certain style or a certain way or get a certain number of points. He just wants to find a way to be efficient, get it done, and get the win. And that's kind of what BYU's offense was last year. I mean, you go look at the final numbers, and it's not anything too glamorous, but you love the time of possession where that team could really eat up the clock and run this thing down, and they could control the time of possession and the style of play of the game. So, Roderick will find a way to make this thing work. And I think that, there's potential there with this group. And I think that's a good point about the sweeps, because that has been a key component to how he's ran this offense since he's been at BYU.
Now, I didn't say sweeps, you did, and you think it was a good point. I've done that, and PK's called me on it. DJ, you congratulating yourself. Mitch, did you just congratulate yourself on your own point? I was going to get to the jet sweeps, but I hadn't brought it up yet. I was saving that. I got to have twice as many questions today, Mitch. Good work by me. Nice work. I have a college roommate. I'll get on one of those rants. He'll look at me and he'll just go, "We love we." He's been saying that for decades now. Everyone at home, feel free to use that. Go home and drop a "we love we" whenever somebody in your life congratulates himself. Just look at me. We love we. If you don't get a laugh, you really butchered it. It's an easy line to get a laugh with. I've seen it work multiple times in multiple situations. However, now I have to come clean. It is a strong point because I was going to make it. Oh, wait, we love we. Now I'm doing it. I think the thing, I say this and it drives PK nuts. The NBA is a copycat league, right? Yeah, well, everything's copycat now because everything's on video. And the video is super accessible. It is so accessible, right? So if Beck leaves anything from behind in his 1-year stopover at the Motel 6 as he left New Mexico and went to Michigan, if he left anything behind, then I think everybody should grab, because he was right about this. You could be as committed to the spread as Urban Meyer, and you can run the triple option. In a way, Urban did. He probably just wasn't as obviously committed to it as Beck was. But Urban ran a lot of the QB run game, which at the time was cutting edge and people couldn't defend it, so Alex Smith piled up the yards. It's now become pretty routine. I can watch a game live and see a defensive end crash down and see the quarterback keep it. I can die, that poor D-end, he blew it. It's going to be hard to watch that on film. That's a 20-yard gain. But what Beck brought in was the jet sweep, the QB handoff to the running back, or keep it yourself. It was triple option. Even if you line up and it looks like you're in a spread and you got 3 or 4 wide receivers on the field. And I just wonder if everybody now has had an offseason to look at that thinking, I don't need to be as committed as Beck was to it, because he'd run that like 3 plays out of 4. He didn't care. But you could mix that into your offense, not really give up a lot of what you're doing, what you believe in, but you can add that, and it could be pretty effective. So I'm thinking we're going to see a lot more of that, if not in all of college football, certainly in our local teams. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, what makes this year's offense really interesting compared to maybe some of the recent seasons for BYU is just depth at tight end. And, BYU's got a good history with tight end play. And I think that's, Aaron Roderick for multiple years said they want to really build up the depth at tight end. Carson Ryan, I think, was a lightning rod to kind of reignite the potential of that position. And he had more than 600 receiving yards last year. But this year, I think they feel like they've got, 3 receiving tight ends with Walker Lyons and Roger Saliapaga being a clear 1 and 2, but then Noah Moiaki as well. And then they've got a blocking tight end with Kean Need. So they feel like they've got, maybe the ability to go with, 3 tight ends on the field at once potentially, or have Kean Need as that third tight end. I think they feel that's an area of strength that we just haven't seen that wrinkle much from BYU offenses in recent years. It kind of reminds me not of the Jason Beck offenses at Utah or offense, but when Utah had its great run with tight ends near the into the Pac-12 era, maybe it could be a little look like that for BYU at times. So I think that's going to be a new wrinkle that we just haven't seen much of from BYU since joining the Big 12, or really, in the Kalani era. There's always been one maybe good tight end for the most part, but there hasn't been much depth. And I think that's where that could be really interesting. And then to pair up with just a solid ground attack. I think that has been something else that I think has kind of caught my attention, is that Sione Moa, RB2. I mean, I've been in the bullpen with you. We've talked about the running back room. I mean, it looks light behind LJ Martin. If LJ gets hurt, that to me is a question, but I think Sione Moa does look like he's at full strength right now. Can he stay healthy? Just like anyone, LJ included. But I think that's been a positive development for BYU too, is that it does appear Sione Moa looks healthy, and that's promising, because if he can get back to his 2024 form, that could be a nice, backup piece to LJ Martin, who I think is going to be a huge workhorse back for the Cougars if he's healthy.
Mitch, we're going to test our new producer now, Alex Napolis, in his first full-time week. Alex, producing on the fly, how quickly can you get A-Rod, the thing we played yesterday where he's laughing about Journey? How handy is that? Do I need one question, or can you pull it up right away? Okay, one question, and he's going to deliver. It's his first week. We're not taking the training wheels off yet. We'll go slow here. We'll give him one question. There's a bite you got to hear about the running backs. To your point about the tight ends and running backs, which all make the point that it's a great point, so that I don't have to drop we on you again. Last year, Bear throws for 3,000 yards, and he basically threw for 1,000 yards to tight ends and running backs. If I gave you that number again, would you take the over or would you take the under on 1,000 yards passing to the tight ends and the running backs? Because that number does take pressure off the wide receiver group.
I think that's a big number. I think, though, that they could go above again, because I think the running backs, they love those pass catchers out of the backfield, and LJ really progressed significantly in that department last year. Sione Moa was a good pass catcher out of the backfield. And, I think that these tight ends, they are going to be a frequent target. I mean, the last 2 media observation windows, Bear Bachmeier is consistently looking for Walker Lyons and Roger Saliapaga. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but, I mean, the last week it was 4 catches for Walker Lyons. This past Tuesday, it was 2 catches for Roger Saliapaga, 2 catches for Walker Lyons. I mean, they are looking for those guys often. And again, it's practice snaps, and they're trying to maybe disguise as much as possible in those media windows. They know when we're up there on the balcony, but I think there's a tendency there. I mean, even Bear said last year with Carson Ryan, that was his safety blanket. And this year, Bear even said, back in the spring ball, that these 2 tight ends, it's a different level of tight end. And Carson Ryan was really good too, and he was an NFL guy. So I think Bear feels really comfortable with those tight ends. He's formed a good relationship with them, and I think he just trusts them. And that's, as he's put it, that's going to be their safety blanket. And I think so. I'm going to say over on that number.
So A-Rod's talking to the media earlier this week, and you got to listen to what they say, but you got to listen to how they say it. And he's going through the running backs, and he gets to one of the freshmen, and I want you to listen closely. You can hear him kind of just halfway between a chuckle and a hiccup as he breathes. And then he literally starts to giggle as he says the guy's name. Now, like you said, there's very limited media windows. I don't know what you've seen, but listen to what A-Rod says, and then you can comment.
I don't think we have the exact depth set yet, but Preston Rex is going to play this year. Devon's going to play this year. And then this kid, Journey, he's I don't know. We haven't ruled him out yet. He is explosive. Like, every time he touches the ball, something exciting happens, it seems like. So And then obviously LJ and Sione are two lead guys, and they're both playing really good football.
Journey Tonga, 5'8", 198 pounds, freshman, losing her high in Lawndale, California. A little giggle when he says his name. You seen or heard anything? Because apparently A-Rod's seen something.
He had a really exciting play on Tuesday's practice where he was showing that shiftiness, the moves in the open field. He caught a pass out of the backfield and got out in the open field, and he was making guys miss, and it was shifty. And that's really the one play where he's really popped off in camp. Unfortunately for him, it got negated with a penalty at the offensive line. They had 2 penalties during Tuesday's practice, and that was, the third string offensive line. But, he does look shifty, and he's quick. I mean, he's small, though. Like, it's every bit 5'8", maybe even 5'7", but he's got some moves that maybe that could be a different wrinkle to that running back room that compared to all these bruising backs that they've got back there, that he could add a spark. I mean, and he was a 3-star recruit and had offers from some FBS programs. He committed to BYU back in January, but there was questions whether there could be enough roster space for him, and obviously attrition happens. Some guys medically retire in the summer and they move on, and the roster spot opens up and he joins. And I think it was a solid addition considering there's no post-spring portal window anymore. I thought that was something to kind of store away and see if he could be someone that contributes at all, because we've seen it with BYU. 2 years ago, they dig into that 4th and 5th string territory at running back, and that emerged with Sione Moa playing against Kansas State in a big game against a nationally ranked team. So there's been some times where BYU's had to go 4 or 5 deep, even going further back in the Kalani era, where it was, the 2018 game against Utah with Zach Wilson. They had to go down to Matt Hadley, and he's picking up yards. I mean, there's been times in the Kalani era where they're going deep in that running back unit. So I think it's good that there's a guy that's maybe deep on that depth chart right now that he might factor into the conversation and be someone that could be a little bit of a spark plug at some point this season.
Yeah, season-ending win, I think it was at USC in 2021 maybe.
Oh, yeah, Jax McChesney.
Yes, right? And he'd been buried, and all of a sudden he's out there, and USC can't tackle him. Just getting the hard yards. I do think I don't worry so much about the size at running back. I worry about it at other positions, but there have been a lot of good running backs, and I can think of one great one, who was short, and they have a lower center of gravity, and so that ability to change direction, if they have a burst to go with it, it makes them very difficult to tackle. And if they're coached right, if they're taught right, and if they're willing to learn, even if they can't run over people, which they probably can't, the ability to finish everything falling forward, you can turn 3-yard gains into 4 or 5-yard gains, and that's good enough. But you can be used on 3rd down, the 3rd and 7, the ability to throw the ball to you in space or hand it to you, and the defense is spread out because they're expecting a pass. They've got the nickel back. Maybe they even got a 6 DB on the field. Who knows? I think there's room to operate there, and there's room to get something out of them. But the thing with young running backs, now that we've talked them up, is a lot of freshmen, and you hear this quote over and over, why didn't you play so-and-so? Because I didn't want to get my quarterback killed. I didn't want my QB broken in half. And we just saw Jackson Dart and the whole thing about he goes to the tent too often, and, you're laying on the field too much. Well, it all starts because running back didn't pick a guy up. And if you don't know who you're supposed to be picking up, you can't play. So I do hesitate to get too carried away about freshmen because I don't even know if they're getting on the field because they don't know if they know what they're doing in pass protection. Yeah,
and I think that's something that has to be tracked. And I think that's where, I think it was noteworthy he brings up Preston Rex, Aaron Roderick. He has been someone that looks like a running back now, where last year it looked kind of, is this just trying to find a spot for a legacy player? But he looks like he's improving there. I still think probably after LJ and Sione Moa, Devon Eka from Lehigh, he's another freshman, and that's again the question where, is he going to be able to protect Bear if he gets some snaps and opportunities to take care of him? And that's, you at the very top of the depth chart, you got 2 guys that always get hurt, and LJ and Sione, and then you got a bunch of freshmen, and then you kind of got in between there, Preston Rex, who's learning the position still, and they're maybe looking to get more opportunities for him as a running back. So it's an interesting blend in that running back room, led by the preseason offensive player of the year in LJ. But if he stays healthy, then all the issues and concerns will be fine, because LJ, I think, is going to be special this year for BYU. But if he goes down, it then raises a little bit of questions. But I'm with you. I did take away that little chuckle, and that moment from A-Rod is like, let's store that away, because they clearly see something. We saw it too in the media, where you could see that burst out of the backfield, which it was a kind of a different level of speed that you just don't see much out of these BYU backs that are big bruising backs.
I'm a typical media honk. I've got you on here. We've just talked offense the whole time. Do you want to say anything about the defense? We've completely ignored it, and it turns out they're going to play about as many snaps as the offense, so maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Well, I thought the defense looked really good on Tuesday. I thought they were if you were to say who was the winner of that media window, I thought the defense outperformed the offense. And I thought a guy that really stood out was Kansas State linebacker Jake Clifton. Kelly Papinga's talked about him being someone that's going to be a factor, and I think that's showing up. And K-Pop, he knows a good inside linebacker. I mean, he played it, and he's coaching those guys up along with his defensive coordinator roles. And that really stood out with Clifton on Tuesday. And he'll probably be maybe in that second grouping, one of the first linebackers off the bench, or depending on what looks they throw out there. But he'll be really impactful coming back. And I actually saw him last night at the Cougar kickoff event, which was a fan deal, and just how's he doing? Kind of getting back from missions, and feels like he's kind of getting back to his usual self, which I think is noteworthy, because that there's always that missionary wall, but you wonder if maybe a guy that's even older than a typical missionary has got actual college snaps under his belt, like he did at Kansas State, if that maybe helps the cause of feeling back quicker to normal instead of avoiding that missionary wall. But I think he'll be an impact guy. And I think that, BYU's defensive line too, I think they've got some depth there. And I think there's still some questions about on the defensive end spot, like who's going to be the star, who's going to be that elite pass rusher for BYU. I kind of still wonder about that. But I think they're going to be steady. They're going to be a solid group. And I think, Bodie Schoonover, a senior, I think he's going to take a big jump this year. I think he could be a guy that maybe is in that undrafted free agent territory, where he gets a real opportunity after a draft ends and he gets a crack at some NFL team next year. I think he's made a lot of improvements this season, and he could be more of a pass rushing, bull rush defensive end on that defensive line for BYU.
If the Cougars used all their scholarships, have they held a roster spot in case somebody who's been in an NFL camp wants to come back and play a fifth year?
They've got an opening. And I asked Fesi Satake about this with the wide receiver spot, and he didn't rule it out potentially. And, you kind of let your mind go and think, is that Chase Roberts potentially? But Chase would not qualify because he was class of 2021. So he wouldn't fall under this temporary restraining order. But Fesi did acknowledge when it came to the wide receiver room that their recruiting staff will keep tabs of that. And if they could be open-minded maybe to that. And that was at the beginning of camp, and maybe that tune's changed from that front with the momentum that they feel like they're seeing from the wide receivers. If they need to go in that direction, maybe not. But they do have like one opening by my count that they could get someone. Now, I thought it was noteworthy, too, that Waylon Lapuaho, offensive lineman who was kind of a rotational starter, he's going to the portal. Thought he could have been a guy that maybe added some value to that offensive line. That is good. I think the starting five they feel really good about, but maybe could have been another depth piece because he was a rotational guard last year. He could have filled that same role again, depending on where he was, game shape wise. I think that could have made sense, but he seems like he's going to go to the portal. TJ Woods did say they feel like they've got, 7 or 8 guys that they feel pretty good with already. And if that's the case, a guy that's, near the end of his career and got a bonus year, he probably doesn't want to be maybe 9th or 10th guy on the offensive line depth chart. But yeah, if I'm BYU, I'm looking at a chance because this is a season where you got a real path to go win the thing potentially. I mean, I'd probably still go Texas Tech, but they've got questions too, like anyone else. But there's a real path to go win the league, and if you can get someone from the NFL that was in a camp, like that's a value add, and that's like the NFL. We're talking more about how college football is like the NFL. Well, that's how the name of the game is in the NFL, where you're going to add someone maybe mid-season. They're going to be expected to contribute that following Sunday. And if BYU will be a following Saturday. And I think if you could get someone that adds to your roster, you go and explore that. So, but some of the coaches I've talked to, they're keeping their options open potentially on that, particularly at wide receiver spot.
Mitch, we'll leave it right there. Remember, we love we.
We love we.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Mitch. All right, there is Mitch Harper. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Ron McBride. Man, there aren't many people who get to go into a closed practice at Utah and a closed practice at BYU, but given his relationship with head coaches and people on the staff, Matt gets to do it. We'll hear what he's thinking a couple weeks before the openers. That's next. Stay with us. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are being joined right now by Ron McBride, the former Utah and Weber State coach, rolling into the studio. And Mac.
What's up, David?
College football is changing, and it is changing quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I am curious how much it blows your mind that I'm talking about guys who are in the Dolphins camp or in the Chiefs mini camp, and they could be eligible to play college football, and they could be playing college football in September.
Yeah, well, that's a weird deal.
As a football lifer, you can't exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I got a guy in the Dolphins camp, but I think he's going to get cut, so he'll be back. So we need to hold a spot for him.
Well, we said that this is college football has turned into minor leagues for the NFL. This really is. This is like baseball, where guys just get called up and sent down.
That's exactly right.
So as soon as we wrap our head around that, and that college is pro sports, away we go.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Yeah.
I'm curious how much, because you know guys on both coaching staffs, you know them really well, and you've known them for a long time. In some cases, since they were teenagers.
Right.
How much have you been going to camp this year? How much have you seen? Have you dialed that back a little bit, or are you curious?
I've been down to BYU, and I've been up to Utah, I think, maybe 3 times.
Okay.
So
what do you know that we don't know? Because we want to know everything. It's the countdown to the season, and they're keeping the gates closed. And I know you can't say stuff and then get your privileges revoked, but tell us what you can tell us.
Okay. BYU is very athletic. They're not, their D-line is real trim guys, probably in the 280 range, but.
What would not trim be? 300?
Well, yeah.
I'm just wondering how much variation you find acceptable.
Well, 310,
okay.
315 would be
for a nose tackle,
and not tall, So, yeah, so they've got probably four or five inside guys that probably in that 275, 280, 285 range.
Is that big enough, or are they going to get pushed around a little bit?
No, I tell you what, they're very athletic, and they're very quick. And then obviously the kid that transferred down from Utah a couple of years ago, he's kind of their leader in the defensive front. Tafuna, right?
And so you like him?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a player and he's a leader, so he's a positive.
So what about outside pass rush? Good enough?
Yeah, I think they're very good. As a team defensively, I think they're very fast. And so I think that obviously they'll move a lot, probably, would be my guess. And so I think they're a pretty athletic.
You were talking about Tanavasa.
Yeah, Tanavasa.
Tanavasa, not Tafuna. You threw me a curveball there. Okay, I know. You just keep me on my toes. I get it.
Okay.
I heard Papinga talking about the sacks. He was getting quizzes about sacks. And he's like, sacks are not the end-all, be-all.
That's right.
Pressures, get the quarterback to throw. They love to say off-platform, right?
Yeah.
Don't have his feet set. And the thing about it, and I get this because, and this isn't really complicated, people should appreciate this. When you get a sack, you turn, I don't know, 2nd and 10 into 3rd and 17 or whatever. So great. But if you get a pressure or a hurry, you might get a bad throw and you might get an interception or even a pick six.
Well,
which would you rather have?
Yeah, the idea is to make the quarterback, the opposite quarterback, uncomfortable, and keep him in the pocket. Don't let him escape. So compress the pocket, force him to make bad throws.
Do you believe in BYU's secondary? Are they good enough and are they deep enough, or you still have questions?
No, I think they have some very capable guys back there, and then they added a couple of linebackers. The kid from Cal. I think he's a very good player, and I think they added one from either Washington or Oregon, I believe. But they're and the quarterback is very impressive. And they've added, I think, a couple more wideouts since last spring. So I think that they're a legit team. And then Utah, with both quarterbacks, they present a real problem because they're going to be able to score. And I think the offensive line, I think Jordan and Alex have really done a good job of coaching those kids, and very good teachers. And I think that group, will be really solid. And they probably got their best receiving core they've had, with the transfers. So they've got probably 5 receivers, I think, that are pretty comparable guys.
Does McGivern get a lot of credit for that? Obviously he's bringing one guy with him. He's bringing Pagan with him from Utah State.
He brought the guy from San Jose State, who he had coached there, and then the guy, obviously, from Utah State, who he'd coached up there.
So it's 2 guys he knows firsthand.
Right.
And that helps take a lot of the guesswork out of it.
Yeah, and then they brought a guy from Mississippi, too, I believe.
Yes, they did. Yep.
And that would be the wide receiver coach bringing him. So yeah, they've got a good group, and then the return guy, is really, he's healthy, healthy now. So yeah, I think to me they're impressive. We'll see. And Morgantown is very organized, and everything is there's no wasted time out there. They've gone from drill to drill, and everything is precise. Everybody knows what they're doing. There's no lag time whatsoever. And their practices are pretty quick. They get in, they get out.
You had question marks in the spring about their defensive line.
Yeah.
You thought they had 2 tackles, but you really need 3 for a game and 4 because you're probably going to have an injury. And then similar numbers for defensive ends, and you thought they really only had 1 guy that you trusted at that point. Now, that point's a long time ago,
right,
and they're trying to coach guys up. What do you think now?
Well, it looked, the one day, that would be 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, the defense won the day, and they looked, the front guys, they all looked in sync. The other day I went up, it was kind of a trade-off, So, and then I'm going to practice tomorrow, and I think tomorrow is more of a kind of a refined walkthrough thing and I think their last 2-a-day practice is Saturday, and then school starts on Monday or Tuesday.
And then start tapering and heading towards game week.
Right. So yeah.
So you have any other questions for Utah, or you think they're set up for a good year? Because I've been reading preseason predictions and they're all over the map.
I think that they're going to score offensively, and I think they're going to score quite a bit because they've got a lot of ammunition.
So is the defense going to be lights out, or is it going to be adequate, or is it going to be a problem?
Well, what happens is when you're scoring a lot, your defense is going to get pushed.
Your defense can get gassed.
Yeah, it can get gassed.
It's exciting to see a team go 80 yards in 3 plays, but the defense would like you to take a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. So that just means that more guys have to be prepared to play, especially the front guys. So they probably need to play with 1, 2, 3, probably 4 inside guys and probably 4 outside guys on a rotation basis.
So basically, they need 2 complete D lines.
Yeah, I think so.
And you're not convinced they're there yet?
Well,
They have 8 guys?
that's a question. You know?
Yeah.
I think that I could think of 3 for sure inside. And
Well, that's an upgrade from what you said previously.
yeah,
Getting closer to it.
yeah, and then they brought another edge guy in that supposedly is a nice looking player. So I would say that that's to me that whole thing that's going to how those guys play as a unit is going to be a huge key.
Ron McBride joining us in studio. He's here to talk football, and replay has been a story, so we're going to get to that coming up because there was a game that Ron and I were both at a long time ago that could have used replay. It would have helped my team win, and would have probably cost your team the game, as it should have, because you cheated us, Ron. You cheated us. We'll get to that game coming up. But you have your foundation that provides money for after schools. 7 school districts, 41 schools. Most of them, everybody gets 10. Well, not everybody. Almost, there's a few schools getting 7 because it's their first year.
Right.
Some schools get 10. The majority of them get $15,000 to run their after-school programs.
Yeah.
You're giving away a little under $500,000 this year, $461,000, and you have to raise all that money.
Yep.
And one of the things, you had a very successful golf tournament. You go out and talk to donors, and you write grants. And also, Ron McBride, Utah football coach, Weber State football coach, and concert promoter. Never thought I'd live to see the day.
Oh my gosh! Hey.
You've got the band The Head and the Heart showing up at the Sandy Amphitheater Saturday night. Tickets available. VIP tickets available.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a date night before football starts, because you're going to have to apologize for your behavior on about 12 consecutive or 13 consecutive or 16 consecutive Saturdays.
Yeah.
Date night. You can go online to the Ron McBride Foundation, learn more about what they do, what school districts they're in. Off the top of my head, I know we've talked about this. Ogden, Salt Lake, Granite, Jordan, Canyons, and now Tooele, and so I left somebody out, Murray. Murray, I got him. Thank you, 7 for 7.
You did
Thank
good.
you. Thank you very much.
Nice guy. Hey, nice job. Memory is good.
Memory's good.
Not like mine, It's gone a little downhill.
Yeah, you're all right. You're still, you're still getting it done. So if you want to support that, if you want to go to a concert, The Head and the Heart. So at the board meetings, I'm on your board. At the board meetings, when this band came up, there's probably 20 people, right?
Yeah.
Sitting around tables, kind of in a square. And there were about 10 people, mostly women, who are like, The Head and the Heart!
Oh,
you
yeah.
got The Head and the Heart!
Oh,
Are you
yeah.
kidding me? And I'm making eye contact with one of your former players, and then I'm looking at another former player, and I'm generationally, guys who played like 15 years apart,
Right.
I'm looking like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who The Head and the Heart is. And I look at the older player, totally blank look, nothing. I look at the younger player, he's like looking down, like he clearly doesn't know either. But the women were going nuts. So, guys, if you don't know about The Head and the Heart, go ask your wives, go ask your girlfriends, go ask your mom, your aunt, your kids, or whatever. They probably know.
Well, people that have followed that group, they love them.
Yeah.
And they're very fan friendly, as far as, how they approach their business. And so I'm excited to watch them. And we have Noah Winker and Little Moon, or the other people before, and they're both really good prelims. So yeah, it's a very good, it's an excellent concert, and the venue is superb. The
Sandy Amphitheater.
Sandy
I've been there.
Amphitheater is a great place to watch watch an event. So it's all positive.
All right. So you can support the Ron McBride Foundation. You can support after-school programs, at-risk kids. All you got to do is go to a concert Saturday night, this Saturday, 2 nights away. The Head and the Heart. Go to ronmcbridefoundation.org for more info. You can get your tickets there.
Yeah, let's get this thing sold out and finished out.
There you go. There's Ronnie Mack. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, what is trending coming up? Steve Bartle reporting on the Utes at 7:30. Jason Christ talking RSL soccer at 8 o'clock. And Kevin Graham talking NFL football at 8:30. Stay with us right here on The Zone.